GuileWinQuote is to many the premier retro fighting game video essayist, providing retrospectives and deep dives into all the good, the bad, and the weird the genre has to offer. With many of his popular retrospectives releasing within a month of an unexpected game re-release announcement, the GuileWinQuote effect has been coined, with people falling into one of two camps. Those that view him as a prophet of the retro fighting game re-release, or as a Capcom or SNK plant drumming up hype for reviving a lost entry. Before his videos had the power to revive lost fighting game franchises, GuileWinQuote was a student of the games, spending his younger years downloading and balancing Mugen characters and digging through obscure fighting game ROM packs to learn everything he could about the genre.
Every day after school, I would straight up go home and download 100 Mugen characters.
Growing up with YouTube as his primary source of content entertainment, he saw firsthand the gap in terms of how fighting games were discussed.
But every single time they talked about fighting games, I would cringe.
With his authentic passion, real expertise in the genre, and a clear mission statement to share why all fighting games are great, GuileWinQuote has established himself as a trusted representative and friend of tight-knit retro fighting game communities.
Here's this video, like I'm like talking about it, like I know your game. When this is like someone's like passion, you want to get that right, you know?
I sit down with GuileWinQuote to discuss his journey in the fighting game genre, being a student of the game of YouTube, and how to extend your reach while being true to yourself. Please enjoy this episode of Trash Talk, available on YouTube, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with another episode of Trash Talk, and this time we have content creator extraordinaire, GuileWinQuote. How's it going, man?
Hello. Fantastic. And yourself?
I'm doing great. It's New Year. Still old fighting games, right? Because I wanted to bring you on because we actually kind of crossed paths in the YouTube comment section recently on a video I'd put out talking about fighting game content creation and how you shared some similar thoughts and had a lot of opinions about how content creation in the FGC space works. So we definitely want to get into that towards the tail end of this discussion. But I also think you're a really interesting figure in the scene for people who might not be aware of what you've been doing. Your GuileWinQuotes, you know, your profile picture on all the platforms has the old school Street Fighter 2 Guile picture there, and you put out a lot of really interesting retrospectives on more classic and often obscure fighting games from the past. And the funny thing about that is when we first met in person, I gotta be honest, I didn't expect you to be like this younger white kid out here. I don't know what I was expecting, but it caught me by surprise that you were the person that knew so much about these really obscure titles, because I had been watching your videos for a while, and you go really in depth with not only things about like the artwork and the vibe of the game, but into the nitty gritty technical aspects of them, the frame data, the techniques, and then even some like the development history and how all these things come together. So, and now you have arcade cabs and all this retro gear behind you. How did this start? Like, how did this come to be?
Yeah, I don't feel like I fit the profile of most, like, I guess, like niche retro game. You know, most of my friends are a little older than me. Most of the people I play games with are usually like, especially pre-pandemic, or like close to their 40s. I'm not maybe as young as I look. I'm almost 30, so, you know, but I've had like fighting games in my life basically since I was old enough to actually play games. So the first fighting game I ever played was Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition on the Sega Genesis. I think I learned how to do a Hadouken when I was like 5 or something, you know, because I had like an older brother who like taught me. So yeah, thankfully I've just gotten the fighting game brainworms, and anything I could ever like do a combo in, like I wanted to play. I wanted to like, you know, break down. So had Street Fighter 2 on the Genesis, and then I got a Dreamcast. So, you know, I played Third Strike, I played Marvel 2, of course they're all bootlegs because it's the Dreamcast. So Power Stone, and then you know, PS2 I picked up like every licensed fighter, even like 3D Mortal Kombat's, whatever. And then I think what like really like got me into like I want to know everything about the genre was I discovered Mugen. And this is when like YouTube like first like came out, because like someone at school was like, hey, you can watch Naruto on YouTube, and they're like way ahead, like Sasuke's a demon or something, you know. So, and I'm like, what? So, you know, I'm on YouTube, and then I discover like probably like a Homer Simpson versus Iori fight or something, and I'm like, what the hell is this? So every day after school, I would straight up just like go home and download 100 Mugen characters, and then like balance them, and then I would want to figure out like, oh, where is this character from? Like, who is this guy? You know?
Okay.
So yeah, I just got introduced to so much, and then I somehow stumbled upon the Shind on YouTube, who is like a third strike historian. His channel is it just turned 18 not too long ago. So he's been posting like third strike footage from Japan and the early American scene for such a long time. People like YSB, RX, TM, like all of the old like greats. And I guess through that I discovered GGPO, which is before. So right now we're on 5K2. Before 5K2 there was 5K1. And then before Fight Cade 1, there was GGPO. And then before that, there was Calera. That's before my time. If someone mentions Calera, they're like, they were in the trenches of fighting games. Like, for real. They were playing, like, KOF 2002 on, like, dial-up connections or something.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
I've heard Calera mentioned, name dropped here and there, but I've never really understood like what it meant. I knew they were just trying to date themselves by dropping that, and I'm like, yeah, man, you're old. Whatever you mean by that, I can tell you're old. Oh, so, and I didn't realize it predated GGPO.
Yeah, so GGPO came out, I think, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was a response to the Hyper Fighting release on 360. It was like the Cannon Brothers, Capcom released Hyper Fighting. It was a big deal because like, oh, Street Fighter 2, we could play online. But the online sucks so bad. So the Cannon Brothers were like, man, we could do something better. So they came out with GGPO, and yeah, I would just go through the list and just play everything. I would parry full screen fireballs on my keyboard against like probably someone from Chile or something, and think like, oh man, like I'm so good at this game, man. Like I can parry something full screen. And yeah, just went through that, and I would just download like MAME, which is like the arcade emulator. I would just download like ROM packs and literally like one by one, just like, what is this game? What is this game? What is this game? And so I kind of got exposed to a bunch of fighting games and kind of realized that, a lot of the time, like on the internet, I would watch a lot of YouTube. I would go on sites like Game Trailers, Screw Attack, like angry video game nerds, stuff like that. I feel like I was like probably like the first generation to grow up on stuff like that. But every single time they talked about fighting games, I would cringe, even though I was like really young, because like it would just be like footage of them doing like, jumping heavy kick into sweep or something.
Right.
And they'll be like, this game sucks, and it's like, what? Like, you don't know anything about this. And so that's when I kind of realized, like, like Street Fighter clone, because like I feel like most people would just call anything that wasn't Street Fighter back then like a Street Fighter clone.
Right.
Was kind of like, this sounds extreme, but like derogatory almost, And I kind of realized that, like, man, like, the 90s, all of these developers were releasing like a new fighting game like every 6 months, and they were just like stealing from each other. They were just copying from each other. And now, of course, as an adult, I realized, like, they all worked in the same industry. They were probably just, friends talking to each other, like colleagues and stuff. But, it kind of made me realize, like, Street Fighter wasn't the first game with a super. Street Fighter Alpha wasn't the first game with air block, like all of these games were coming out and everyone was stealing with each other. And that's why, like, from 1991, we got Street Fighter 2, and then 1999, we got Third Strike. That is such an insane, like, when you put it in, like, not even 10 years, 8 years of time, the genre progressed that much because there were just so many games and so much competition going around. And these developers were making a game, like, every 6 months, and I just kind of realized, like, man, like, all of these games have something, special to them. Even if, like, the game isn't all the way there, like, there's probably some mechanic or something that was forward thinking, in some aspect. And someone else probably saw that and was like, hey, we could do that better. And it just kept progressing from there, essentially. So I had a lot of free time. No extracurricular activities.
Well, it sounds like you didn't have a lot of free time because you were really busy delving into this world of fighting games. That's a really in-depth history you had actually exploring this genre. And that's a great point you bring up between like Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3, 8 years time frame, because in 7 years we got Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5, and in many ways that was going backwards.
Yeah, no,
so
for real.
Think of that jump back then is very jarring. I mean, and that's almost all of gaming now, because the console generation leaps. Like,
Yeah.
they compare like a few blotches of pixel. Like, look, in 10 years' time, we smeared out these few pixels in this corner here. So isn't that a great leap forward? Give us $500 extra. But yeah, that time period you're reflecting on, there was so much innovation constantly happening that there's like this huge depth of history to go through. But while you're doing all this, it sounds like most of this, timeline wise, was right up before Street Fighter 4 release, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes.
So did leading up to that point, it sounds like all of this was mostly you looking solo at home at emulators and playing online a little bit. Did you have any kind of experience with playing with a community at this point?
Yeah, so my neighborhood, we had kids, and I kind of taught them all how to, like, you know, do fireballs and stuff. We were literally playing on emulators and Mugen with like 2 people on 1 keyboard, because this was still before like 360 wired pads. Oh man, those are like a game changer when those come out. So yeah, I was in Third Strike lobbies, like horrible. I was on like Wi-Fi connection stuff. I didn't know any better, and I would watch all of these like old streams and stuff. And then Street Fighter 4 was coming out, and I remember when like the EGM issue had like Ryu on it with like all the ink and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like Street Fighter's coming back, like this is insane, you know? I remember like reading it and like trying to like figure out, because they would talk about like, oh, there's a new revenge mechanic, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I can't understand like what the hell like that is. So I was super excited. Got Street Fighter 4, loved it, you know, at the time. Got on 360, but it wasn't until Super came out where like I think that like kind of changed everything, because I was still when Super came out, I was still in the 8th grade actually. But that was the time where I was like, I'm going to take this super seriously. All of my friends in my neighborhood were taking it seriously. We all had mains. You know, we were like watching Evo and stuff, you know. But for the most part, I mean, everyone was just doing like, I can FADC. Like, check this out. I can FADC. You know, we weren't like, you know, we knew like, oh, hey, like there's this thing called plinking and stuff, you know, and like there's like 1 frame links, but that was all like, you know, like, oh, that's what Daigo's doing on stage, you know, like that's not what we're doing, you know. But I did have a local arcade that was kind of big at the time. It has a lot of controversy now, but it's Planet Zero. I did go there a few times, but like I was still a teenager, so that was like my mom like dropping me off and then picking me up, and like I sucked, you know. So I didn't really get to experience that like camaraderie thing, you know. Thankfully I did have like, you know, a bunch of kids in my neighborhood and we all played and stuff, but I guess I didn't really get to experience like FGC, like I'm gonna go to tournaments and stuff until Street Fighter 5, because Street Fighter 5 came out when I was in college. And before Street Fighter 5, I was like, you know, I gave in to the hype where I was like, this is going to go back to real Street Fighter. I was on I was on Fightcade, like grinding Super Turbo so hard, because I'm like, this is gonna be so important, you know, like this is gonna make me better than like everyone at Street Fighter 5. Yeah, me and another friend, we really felt like, you know, Street Fighter 5 was our generation's game. This is gonna be the game that we're gonna go so hard on. We're gonna go pro. We're gonna like win tournaments, top 8s, whatever. And then, you know, Street Fighter 5 happened, and sadly it kind of killed a lot of our like our locals and stuff. So there was like before Evo, the period before Evo, I feel like everyone was still in their honeymoon. Me especially, like that was the point where I was like, Street Fighter can't be bad. There's no way that this series that I love, like it's impossible. I can't accept it. Like whenever I would like defend it, I'd be the one in the comments defending it. Like, you don't get it. Like, all we need is training mode and online. I don't care about anything else, you know, sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, but you know, taught me a big lesson that I can't be a shill. You know, sometimes things you love just kind of suck. At first, I ended up liking Street Fighter 5 more. I love Abigail. He's one of my favorite characters of all time.
Oh,
honestly.
really? I wouldn't expect that.
What a stupid character, man. I love that character.
I feel like, to me, Abigail often represents the people who were like burned by Street Fighter 5. Like, that was the nail in the coffin for a lot of people. But it's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, like when he released at Evo, because Evo 2017 was actually the first Evo that I got to attend. So I just remember the crowd, like the air out of the room. It just, that trailer dropped. It's people are like waiting for Street Fighter V to be saved. It's like season 1 was terrible. Season 2 was getting maybe a little bit better, but it was still like kind of a shit show, offensive shit show. People are like, we need something big now. And then Abigail appears on screen, vroom vroom, and the crowd is like, what the hell is this?
I still can't believe that they didn't do the Zoner Sako Plater.
Manat.
Manat.
Yeah.
I can't believe, like, because like Manat came after Abigail, right? Like right after.
I think they were the next character. Yeah.
How in the world did Abigail get at Evo and not Manat? Like that is so crazy to me.
Yeah, Manat has a life beyond the game now. Like you know, people love that character, and she's like a cosplay fan favorite. And then that would have been an easy win. But instead, they chose the giant, ugly guy role playing as a car. Like, I don't know what they were thinking.
I love that character. Such a ridiculous design, and not. I mean, appearance wise, he's ridiculous, but like mechanically, what a dumb character. But like, I love that. You know, I like playing ignorant characters. So, yeah, my name is GuileWinQuote. I don't main Guile in anything. Super Turbo, he's like a secondary. I play Boxer in that game because he's a dumb, ignorant character.
Right.
And if I have to play against like Honda or something, okay, I'm gonna switch to Guile. But like Guile's too hardworking in that game.
Gotcha. So what does the name actually refer to then? Is it just the specific win quote when Guile wins? The family man one?
I like my username used to be like go home and be a family man. Okay. But then it didn't fit anywhere, so that like just morphed into GuileWinQuote, which I think is like cool now. I like Guile. I love charge characters. The reason, like when I first started playing fighting games, like when I first started like actually learning them, I played Guile, but then in Super, I just fell in love with Gamer B. He's like my favorite player of all time. So I started playing Adon.
Okay.
It depends. I get mixed reactions when I tell people I play Adon in that game, but I try to go back because I saw Broski. He uploaded like a video on like just remembering Street Fighter 4, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna bust out some Adon links, and I couldn't do any of them anymore. It was embarrassing. I was like, you know what, maybe fighting games getting easier is like a good thing. I don't know.
That's funny you say that, because for me with Street Fighter 4, it's like when I go back after just a few minutes, the one frame links come back, but I can't play the game. Like, I did boot up one time since Street Fighter 5 releasing. I feel like I've been online on Street Fighter 4 twice in these many years. And when I went online, I lost to a Ken player who was just doing carry grab over and over. Like, literally just over and over. And I'm like, I know what you're doing. I know I'm supposed to tech the throw, but I cannot tech the throw. Like, the delay-based netcode plus, like, the tech window plus the carry grab delay, I was like, oh, like, I have no sense of like the flow of the match anymore. In training mode, I'll do the one frame links, but in game, I was losing to some guy spamming grab. So.
Yeah, I'm so nostalgic for the game. I think like Street Fighter 4 is the ultimate like homie game. Especially for our generation. I guess like you could put that on in the background, and someone's gonna get on. We'll have fun.
Right.
But at the last Texas Showdown, they had the Brawley Legs Memorial Tournament.
Right.
And I was playing against like a little group. I believe you got top 8 in that, right?
I got maybe top 8 or whatever. I entered on a whim. I didn't even sign up in time. I didn't know it existed. So they snuck me into the bracket, and I borrowed someone's hitbox, and I never played that game on Leverless. So
oh man, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I went in just freeform and played at least one game, but I barely remembered how to play. It had been so long. Yeah.
I was playing in a little group against a friend. He got like, I think he got third sketch. He was like a Rolento player.
Okay.
And, I tried Adon. I was like, okay, I can't do this. Let me go to someone easier. I tried like Oni set, and I was like, dude, I don't know how to play this game anymore. It's hard. But anyways, yeah, so Street Fighter 5 came out. It unfortunately, like, I mean, it sounds like a joke now. I feel like maybe people who weren't in the Street Fighter 5 generation maybe think it's like an over-exaggeration, but it did kind of like kill my locals. Like people stopped like coming. We had like really strong, Street Fighter 4 players and, other games like Hamad and stuff.
Right.
They played until Evo, and then locals just kind of stopped.
Yeah. This is not an unusual story, unfortunately. This happened everywhere, right? And I think if people who weren't a part of this a part of the FGC at this time might not get it, is that Street Fighter 4 year over year was growing in the competitive scene, which I don't think I can't name another fighting game that has seen that type of growth, because usually what happens, especially from Street Fighter V era 2016 and beyond, is that the game's biggest the first year, and then it dwindles until the next hype cycle starts over when a new release happens. And then overall, the dip, the minimum from the dip is still higher than the previous minimum. So overall, the FGC keeps growing, but there's always this boom and bust cycle. But with Street Fighter 4, year after year, it was getting more and more tournament entrants and more like visibility from the audience and more viewers, more spectators, until Street Fighter 5 released, which was the biggest Evo of all time until Street Fighter 6, and then things fell off. And all over the country, locals disappeared. And I think that was 95% the game, because Street Fighter V released like 3 years too soon. Arcade Edition would have been a good time to release the game. The game was just not finished and barely functioned. But then also, I think we started to see beyond that, to not just 100% blame to Street Fighter V. I think we started to see the evolution of the online scene as well. Like, for someone who, like myself, had locals during Street Fighter V era, at a certain point, I was like, I'm going to play online. Like, as it's kind of taboo and it's maybe selfish to say, there was times where I was like, I went to the local here and there in Milwaukee, but I was like, I am competing with stronger players online with a connection that kind of works. And Street Fighter 4, that literally did not exist. So I feel like there's this combination of like 95%, a lot of people drop the game, and that last 5% of the people who are really committed, it's like, we can just kind of play each other online. And I don't think with Street Fighter 6 that's recovered a little bit. There's a resurgence in offline to a degree, but I think because of the online situation, it's so good. A lot of people just want to stay online. You see it with NLBC, right? Idom goes to NLBC every week, but there's only like 10 people that show up now, which is great. It's still enough to have a great time. I'm not trying to knock that, but it's just not the same. I don't think we'll ever go back to that era.
Yeah, sadly not. Like our local Street Fighter 16, at first, like we had our first like big tournament for Street Fighter 6 had 80 people, which is like
Right.
insanity,
Awesome.
you know? But now like our like best player in our scene is literally like putting like $100 bounties to like just beat him,
Right.
you know, in bracket, just to get people to come out. Yeah, it's definitely a different era, but I would say Street Fighter 5 failing, it's kind of selfish to say, but like I feel like it was a net benefit for the FGC almost, in the sense that it got other people to play other games.
It opened the door.
For sure, because like I mean, in the Street Fighter 4 era, you know, Snake Eyes has the famous quote that like, you know, like Street Fighter players are the best fighting game players. And I'm a bit biased. I will say that like Capcom Cup 2015, Evo 2015 Street Fighter 4 is like, that's like the peak of fighting games to me. Fighting game
I
skill,
kind of agree.
you know, fighting game skill. Everything was just like the culmination of everything was like perfect, you know. But I mean, of course, an anime player ended up winning, you know.
Right.
So, but yeah. So there was like a stigma, like, you know, Guilty Gear is so huge now, and I've said this in a few of my videos. Like, the fact that Strive is as big as it is like insane.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter like how you feel about, you know, if it's Guilty Gear, blah blah blah. But like, Guilty Gear is a household name. You know, people who wouldn't even play Street Fighter 2 years ago are playing like, you know, playing Guilty Gear. So, but back then it was like, you're an anime player. You know, there was like a weird stigma. There was definitely a pretentious air to like Street Fighter. Like, this is the main game. This is the game that's actually taken seriously, sort of thing. But,
yeah, I noticed that firsthand a lot, because like I was an 09er for Street Fighter, and I can't say I didn't contribute a little bit to the anti-anime stigma, and that's just me not liking anime in general. But the games themselves, I can tell they're like way more technical. Like, I'm looking at these games like on the side here and there at the locals or whatever, and I'm like, they're doing a lot of stuff. Like their RPM, their APM, their actions per minute, it's like way higher than what we're doing. I'm like, that looks kind of hard. But then my mentors in the scene or whatever, there'd always be that sort of attitude of like, oh, but the best players are playing Street Fighter. Or and my real teacher, he talked about Melee. I brought the story up before. He's like, Evo 2013 happened and Melee was there, and he's like, but yeah, we could do that. We could beat all of them, can't we? And I'm like, maybe. I don't know. They seem pretty good. I'm like, they're doing a bunch of wave dashing and technical stuff. I'm like, I think it's kind of hard what they're doing. He's like, nah, we're Street Fighter players. We could beat them at their game just because we played Street Fighter. There's an assumed position of dominance and skill just because you played Street Fighter. which was very silly to have. And I think that has been blown wide open in later years because I do think there's a sort of talent draw to Street Fighter because of the economic opportunities. And we see that in Street Fighter 6, where a lot of players do end up at the professional level dropping other games to play Street Fighter 6, but they come from other games and then they do great. They're among the best of the best of the best, right? We keep seeing that over and over. Even like NRS players who are still to this day like disrespected like crazy. And the start of Street Fighter 6, they were some of the best players. Some of the best NRS players were winning Street Fighter, like big Street Fighter weekly tournaments in NA, and they just, they stopped to go play NRS games. So we've seen the cross pollination on Street Fighter, and we can see that players from other games, the top players can be top players in Street Fighter as well. So you kind of have to lose that ego as a Street Fighter player. But it was a real big thing in the Street Fighter 4 era for sure.
I mean, it still exists in like old games, I mean, that's like a discourse that always happens, like, oh, like, but you can't play this, you can't play Third Strike, you can't play Super Turbo. It's like, yeah, if Mena dedicated his life to Third Strike, yeah, he's gonna win. Like, he's already proven himself, like, but people were open to playing new things because they didn't have a main game, I guess. So there was like a kind of casual local where it wasn't like a tournament. It was like everyone just bring your own stuff and we can play games. And I met some friends who were also burned by Street Fighter 5, and we just started playing old man games. For whatever reason, Texas in general has like a huge CVS2 scene. So there was just like, it sounds like a joke, but like there'd be a random Friday in like 2017 and there'd be like 30 people for like CVS2 or something, and that turned into like, hey, like I played this random game on Fightcade, like Karnov's Revenge. You want to like, mess with it. And so we just kept playing a bunch of games, and then a group of friends came together and we created this thing called like Poverty Maniacs. And we hosted like once a month, we would host like $1 entry tournament for like a random game, like Breaker's Revenge, Karnov's Revenge, a lot of revenge stuff, just stuff like that. And it would like pull like people that we've never seen. Like there would always be like one person who's like, oh, I actually know how to play this game and I'm gonna like kill you, like we ran like a random Soul Calibur 2 tournament. Some like old dude didn't speak a word, never seen him ever, just like swept it, took his $40, went home, sort of thing. So yeah, just got, I guess, a lot more active in the poverty fighting game. That's what, I don't know if that's like a good term now. Niche fighting game, that's what they used to call them. But I got really involved in that, started running tournaments, and then I fell in love with Vampire Savior. And I think that's probably my favorite fighting game of all time. That's Darkstalkers 3. This is like an insane game because this was Capcom, like a small team at Capcom, just like making up stuff. Like there's so many like rules to this game that no other game does, because it's like, let's just put out this game and hope it works. And hopefully, like, thankfully the mechanics and everything turned into something like beautiful. So fell in love with that game, and I started running, or my friends and I, we started running Vampire Savior and Alpha 2 at Texas Showdown, I believe in 2017, and we've ran that every single year. So if you're going to Texas Showdown, enter Vampire Savior, Alpha 2. But because of that, we were like, man, we got to get arcade hardware, and that's when we just dove into like, okay, let's start spending money on super guns, let's start spending money on arcade boards and stuff, and it's turned into this behind me. But yeah, so started running that Texas Showdown, just started getting really into a bunch of niche fighting games, like actually like playing them. But when the pandemic happened, obviously all of that stopped. And me personally, I'm not the tournament player who is ever entering a tournament like, oh, I'm gonna win. I don't necessarily just like grind one game. I play like competently, I would say, like at like a bunch of different games, and yeah, like that. But like winning tournaments and everything is like not necessarily like why I play fighting games. I enter tournaments, I go to locals and stuff, but I want to play other people, I want to have fun. So during the pandemic, I kind of, lost like what I enjoyed about the genre pretty much.
Mm,
Because yeah, I didn't want to do the faceless Fightcade rank and get
right.
mad at my opponent, all day. So, um, I feel like with everyone, we were stuck at home watching a bunch of YouTube, a bunch of mindless stuff, and I was so bored that this is gonna sound raw like bad, but I ended up watching a bunch of Smash stuff, even though like I don't care about Smash. I've never been like a Smash guy. There's no offense. I don't want anyone to like walk away with like, oh, GuileWinQuote hates Smash or something. But it's never been. I have fighting game brainworms.
Mm,
It's not the same to me. But I would watch a bunch of Smash stuff because like they had stuff on YouTube that wasn't just technical,
gameplay.
we're playing the game.
Right.
Gameplay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you've mentioned Awesome Sauce on other um I think you've mentioned Awesome Sauce
Yeah,
on
I
other
mentioned it
podcasts.
before in some videos, but I've also mentioned just Smash in general because your
They kill
timeline
us.
sounds very similar to me. Because 2020, I was tweeting about this a lot too before I sort of made a jump into the YouTube game more heavily. Because before it was like I was practicing streaming on Twitch, and then like once a month clip something for YouTube, and then here and there I would do something a little bit more edited, but it was just on my spare time, which I had like none of at the time. And then I was like, why is Smash doing so much cool shit on YouTube? I would turn it on and there'd be really in-depth retrospectives on tournament runs, player history, technical stuff, but maybe in a way that's super digestible and edited well and tells a story. Like, how do you turn a video game glitch into a story? Like, like their content creation game was just light years ahead of what we were doing. And I was like, I remember tweeting about it, like, why don't we do this? And then I'm like, why don't I do this? So it sounds like a similar time frame where you were observing this. I mean, I was a fan of Smash, though. I did actually like Melee, so that helped me get into that. But it sounds like you noticed the same sort of trend in their community, that they actually really embraced content creation and expressing their passion for their game.
Yeah, because there was a moment where I kind of realized like, like I can't show a fighting game video to like my girlfriend. Because there's like nothing for her to like grasp on. It's literally just
Right,
like, oh yeah, like that was sick, right? And it's like,
right,
what even was that? But yeah, on Melee, it was like, here's a 3-hour documentary on Marth's F Smash.
right.
And it's like, well, what? Like, we have so much like history. We have like, there's so much nuance and cool stuff in our games, but it didn't really exist on YouTube. Besides, just gameplay or like edited streams, like
Hmm.
lightly edited stream stuff. Besides Core Gaming, of course. I feel like anyone who talks about fighting game content on YouTube always says like, yeah, Core Gaming is like the one. But like,
Right,
yeah, they were the first ones to be like, yeah, we can do this same thing, but for fighting games.
right.
So yeah, I kind of just decided, I was also working from home and had a lot of free time, just wiggling the mouse to keep myself online.
Hmm. Classic.
Um, I was like, yeah, whenever I was always bothered by how people who talked about fighting games who didn't know anything about fighting games talked about fighting games in videos. But I was also bothered by the fact that the people who do know fighting games aren't talking about them in a way that's like digestible to
Right.
like anyone. So I figured, I like a bunch of old games. Let me start talking about why I like these old games and why they are important, even though they're not, going to be on the main stage at Evo. Even though
Right.
that, yeah, there's a lot of broken stuff in this, or even if you think the game feels horrible, like, look at this cool aesthetic choice. Look at this mechanic that some guy thought of.
Right.
And it's thankfully, very luckily, has taken off since
Yeah,
then.
you've been doing really good. I mean, your channel, based on what is publicly available. So I don't know if you did the Rob TV. He told me he had tons of videos that he delisted.
I
Your first video on there right now is the unfinished fighting game with Heart, Daruku Tenshi, if I'm saying that correctly, which was
Daroku Tenshi.
Daruku Tenshi nearly 4 years ago. And February 4th, it'll be 4 years ago when you publish that video, and it's you
Yes.
with your branding already ready to go, the GuileWinQuote plus the intro. Your music is set there, and it has your style that you've maintained. You've tightened it up throughout the years, and it improved your production, and you've improved your craft. But it has already, that first video there looks like a YouTube video, like something I would put on today and be like, yep, this is a good YouTube video. It's digestible. You're doing your narrative retrospective about this game and explaining what you like about it and making it entertaining for the viewer to follow along. And that's a great first YouTube video. But that's not your first shot, right?
I will admit, no. I've had so a really long time ago, before Street Fighter V came out, when the Street Fighter V crack came out, or like was like leaked, I made a video that was like, here fighting game fundamentals you need to know for Street Fighter V.
Okay.
And that video got like 100,000 views at the time. It was like, I delisted it. It sucks, and you know it's a little embarrassing. But it was me like basically like, this is what a frame trap is, you know. But I also went into like weird stuff like this is what a chain combo is. When it's like, man, Street Fighter V is not gonna have chains, but Street Fighter 4 had chains. You know, if you kept mashing light punch, you would get chains. So it was a bunch of like just weird stuff, but like it was big, and I was like, oh my god, like I can do this. Core A Gaming even like used the video in like one of his videos like 10 years ago. We met at Evo 2016, and I was like, oh, like I'm the guy you used the video from. But then I didn't do anything for 4 or 5 years after that.
So this was your second video. The one
yeah, I've like dabbled in, but like not in like actual like putting stuff out in YouTube, you know. Like when I was young, I would like mess with like going back to like Mugen, you know. I'd be like, here, check out this awesome fight I edited in like Windows Movie Maker sort of thing.
Oh, but put some Linkin Park in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Make it A
awesome.
and B. But I will say that most of the media that I consume, it sounds embarrassing, is YouTube. You know, and I've just like grown up like I said, like watching everyone on Screw Attack, you know, everyone on game trailers. So I felt like I kind of understood what was needed. And I guess we could go into this, but you know, the branding from the get-go, I immediately, you know, I set out with the channel with like a kind of mission statement where it was like, I want to make fighting games accessible to like everyone, but I also want the people who know fighting games to not click off of it, because that was what I would do. I'd click on a fighting game video, and it's like, you obviously don't know what frame data is.
Right.
And I know that sounds pretentious, but I was like, I'm just not interested in hearing your point of view, because like I feel like I'm not gonna get anything.
Right.
Which is like, you know, which is harsh, but like that's what I was feeling at the time.
It depends on how they present it. I think there is a place for that if it's forthcoming that they don't know what they're getting into, and it's more of like their journey. Because I've seen some videos that were great from the perspective of, I've never played Street Fighter before. Here's me trying to win a tournament in 30 days. Like I've seen a video. I've seen videos like that where it's like the assumption from the get-go is, I am a beginner being exposed to this. Here's that experience and how I make it digestible for you. But if you come at it from an expert of like, I love fighting games, and then I don't know what a combo is, it's like, well, you love something about this, but I'm not sure if it's the game.
Yeah, because I would like, you know, I would look up these random old games, and you would only see like, you know, 240p combo videos and stuff, and then you would get like a video of someone talking about it. But like I said, it would be like footage of them just like in arcade mode, just like talking, you know.
Right.
And I was just like, I want to do that, but better. So with like the branding from the get-go, you know, with the mission statement, the mantra of the channel, you know, like all fighting games are good, you know, the kind of immediately is like, hey, like this is what you're getting yourself into. You're getting yourself into like an enthusiast, someone who's passionate about this, but also, you know, for those in the know, it's like, oh, that's the CPS2 jingle. That's if you start up an arcade board, here's the Q sound CPS2 jingle. This is what he's, you know, referencing. He knows what he's talking about. That
Even
was
the name
kind
itself.
of idea.
GuileWinQuote,
yeah, you're right.
like GuileWinQuote. I know what you're talking about. Like I assumed it was the "Go home and be a family man" quote. So that that already is. I feel like GuileWinQuote is just an interesting phrase in and of itself. It's kind of catchy on its own, and then that paired with the image, it's like the windscreen image, and it gets your mind going on what is the win quote he's referring to. Is it the one that I know? And then people who don't know, it's just catchy, and you know you can maybe recognize Guile. There's some kind of reference there to give you that. So there's already an inside reference while being digestible and having reach for greater audiences. So I feel like you really nailed that balance. And getting that out of the gate is very impressive, I had to say. I don't think a lot of people get that first. I mean, on my channels, I have like over I almost have 3,000 videos on YouTube at this point, and I feel like I'm still figuring out what exactly I want to do. But I think your focus really shows, because from the get go, you have your mission statement, and I think that's really powerful that you understood exactly what you wanted to achieve up front. And I think that's something that's missing from a lot of other people who try to do content in the FGC space, which is, I guess, sort of related to the video that you commented on that I was discussing this in. A lot of the people who are in this Reddit thread that I went through were discussing why they don't do content creation. And a lot of people were saying, I would, but X, Y, or Z. And the common theme from it is that they're like, I want to make something, but I have no idea what to make or why I want to make it. And then I'm like, well, why do you want to make it in the first place? What is the actual natural goal that you're trying to achieve? So it seems like they had no reference to that core mission statement like you happen to have from the get-go.
Yeah, with the comment that I made on your YouTube video, which whenever FGC content comes up as as a topic, I'm always extremely super interested, obviously, because I make it. But I want to see, like, what people are struggling on, like what people want to see, sort of thing. Yeah, and I respect that you were very blunt with, going through this Reddit thread, people saying like, yeah, I would love to do this, but it takes a lot of time. And you're like, yeah, it does. And it's like, yeah, like, of course, like, it's work. I feel like a lot of people come to this space, content creation, very, I don't know if entitled is the right word, but with the way that people complain, it's like, I'm doing it, why aren't I getting views?
Right.
And I do want to say, like, obviously, like, YouTube is extremely lucky, or like luck based. There's a lot of factors outside, like, gender, race, occupation, education, literally all of that goes in it. Like, no one is trying to say that, like, literally all you have to do is make a good video. That's just not the case. But I do think, for the most part, that YouTube rewards good videos, in the sense that if you make something good that someone's going to watch, it's going to keep pushing your stuff as long as you keep doing that. It's just, of course, getting that first initial click is like almost like a little miracle that you have to hope for, which is why you have to, like, come out prepared and strong and, like, focused of, like, if I do get this random click, I'm going to keep them here.
Right.
So
very true. Yeah, I think there's that psychological element of delayed gratification that goes with it. And I think it's not just content creation, that's anything. Like, if you look at, like, fitness, whatever, your career, any aspect of life where you have to put in work up front and then get results later, that sort of mantra or that mentality comes into play. I ate the broccoli and I did a push-up. Why am I not Arnold Schwarzenegger? You know what I mean? Like, there's always that kind of disconnect that happens in every lane. So having it happen in content creation is it's expected, I guess. You should make sure to fight that mentality or whenever it creeps up in your own mind. But it's to be expected that people react that way. But the thing I like to reiterate or use you as an example, this whole conversation up till this point, you've been establishing your genuine passion and expertise that you've built over your entire life. So, you had a passion for fighting games. You used all your free time to explore the genre and to collect actual expertise over time, right? You are now an expert on this genre because you've put in years of, I mean, I wouldn't call it work. It was just passion. it was play, right? You played for years, and now you know a thing or two about the genre. Therefore, when it came time for you to do content creation, you're able to deliver that value. You are a unique individual where you're positioned in a way where you can communicate the things you've learned over years of experience. That I can't just do that right now. I can't just Google this wealth of fighting game knowledge that you've accumulated over the years. You have to distill it to me, or else I will not have it. Right. So that's a very powerful position to approach it from. And so I see that with other people where they're like, well, I don't know what to make. Then don't make it. Right. So you knew exactly what you wanted to make because you knew exactly what you wanted to talk about because it's your genuine passion. So that part was easy. Now you just had to figure out the mechanics of actually making the video. But if you have nothing that you actually want to make or do, why are you trying to make or do something? What is actually the goal? And I feel like there's this image of just like, maybe they just want to be an influencer, right? They just want to make money talking.
For sure.
So it's hard to
Um,
understand the motivation there.
I'm in an interesting position because I'm not really doing this as my job. I'm not looking for it to be my career.
Hmm.
I'm sure it's the same with you, but when people outside of, fight the FGC, like hear you do YouTube, probably the first question they ask is like, how much do you make?
Right.
Truthfully, I don't make a lot on YouTube. And I'm not doing YouTube to make a lot of money. So I am in a position where, I literally every month just, okay, I want to talk about this game. There's no like rhyme or reason for the most part. And so when I see other people, like even other creators, like with platforms bigger than me, being like, "What kind of videos do you guys want to see?" It's like it's hard for me to not feel like you've lost the plot, like a little bit, where it's like what do you mean, But like obviously, I'm not making a video every day, and I'm not doing this as like my income, where like I need to know what you guys want. So
Right.
yeah, I definitely have, I think, a much different perspective, but I also feel like the fact that I'm not coming in this wanting it to be my job and I'm able to, just do whatever has kind of like helped the image and the brand, especially in the games I'm talking about, because since I'm talking about niche things, it's very easy to like sniff out like a poser,
Yeah.
or a grifter, even
Right.
though there's what am I to grift here, I guess besides clout, but it's very easy to, do things like that. So, um yeah, I feel like it's I'm just in a very interesting position because like you said, like I have like this my entire life and I am, whenever I say like I think this game is really cool, like I'm not like hamming it up, like I think
Right.
it's really cool. I'm trying to tell you, hey, this is why I think it's cool. You don't have to think it's cool, but like at least try to think about like some aspects of this that you may not have otherwise.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
So
The authenticity comes through, and that's to the content's benefit. And that was the other example I was using in that video. It's like, well, if I don't think it's wrong to want to make an income or return from whatever you're producing on YouTube, but there is sort of like a sliding scale between genuine passion and a scheme to make money, right? Like you have to find that sweet spot, and if you go to the full passion side of things, then you should have no problem doing whatever you're doing because you're not going to care at all if a single person watches it. You're making it for yourself because you just have a passion about this topic and you want to create something related to it, right? So therefore, great, you're free. There's no
yeah.
problem. Now, if you start sliding the scale in the other direction a little bit, you might have an actual genuine passion, but then you care a little bit about if it actually has success and there's a part of the metrics about it, and maybe you enjoy the game of how to produce a YouTube video, and it's like another video game to play. Like, how can you learn this system and optimize it? And that's fair, and that's all good. But if you go to the other extreme, where it's like you have no passion, you don't care at all, and you're literally just like an AI trying to regurgitate or reverse engineer the YouTube algorithm and spit out content to get views and money, then we've seen like the dark places that goes with like influencers on the internet and like the disgusting content they do for views and money, and it's just degeneracy, right? So that's always the thing I point out. It's like, what do you care about? Like, just figure out how to make something related to what you care about, and then find your balance for optimizing it for YouTube. Because I think there is a game to be played with it, and I think it's kind of a fun game. Like, I kind of enjoy figuring
I do
out how
too.
YouTube works, because once you start getting into it, there's all these different metrics like the click-through rate and then watch time, and those things are objective metrics that you can take back from and make the video better. There's definitely something to be said about a video that people want to watch to completion and in a genuine way. Now, those stats can be gamed by, you can do other retention techniques to keep people strung along for the length of the video with no real payoff in the end. But if you're not trying to actually just deceive people to game the system, I think it just gives you really good feedback to actually just make your video better.
No, for sure. And I do want to clarify. I don't want to come off from like a pretentious, like, I don't need YouTube for money or anything. I don't like if I want people to, profit from, because like making videos sucks a lot of the times, it's a lot of work. It's like so much, like this past video that I just dropped, I spent most of my Christmas holidays, like anytime I wasn't with like my family, my girlfriend, it was like, okay, I'm gonna be in the office and
Right.
cranking this out, So But yeah, definitely like because I'm not necessarily looking for like the monetary gain, it definitely allows me to be a lot more relaxed and a lot more, I want to say like eccentric with my topics,
Right.
because yeah, I have people ask me, like, oh, why don't you make a video on, something that I know would be like big, like something like, the three kings of like poverty games are like Cardinal's Revenge, Jackie Chan, and Sailor Moon. Those
Hmm.
are like everyone like kind of knows those games. Like, well, oh, why don't you cover those? And it's like, well, I feel like those have been talked to death, even though like I know that that would do good, but it's just like I don't feel like, I need to right now. I can
Right.
still make a video about a game that, you know, has a 5K lobby population of 0 unless I'm in it,
Right.
sort of thing. So, yeah, I definitely think I'm in a cool spot, and I think because of that has also helped me that I'm not, putting a NordVPN ad. Not that there is anything wrong with a NordVPN ad, but it's just like the fact that to me, it would feel jarring to talk about this game from 30 years ago and then be like, "Oh yeah, hey, check this out. Here's an ad
Right.
break." And then so I feel like that kind of like helps the brand in general, where it's like, okay, this person's obviously passionate and he's also not, shilling out, if that
You
makes
know, it's
sense.
funny. You talked about grifting this space before. I think the YouTuber is Carl Jacobs. He's the guy who does a lot of like, oh, they cheated a speed run.
Yeah,
He
the speed
exposes,
runs, yeah.
and he did a couple recently about the similar sort of strategy applied to YouTube videos, where there's a bunch of YouTubers who keep copying other people's YouTube videos and
In
cranking
other
out.
languages and
Not
stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
not just other languages. But I think some of them were in the same language, but definitely a lot of them were like in different languages where it's easier to get away with. Um, and so yeah, it exists. There's people who just crank out YouTube channels, literally just ripping people off on esoteric topics. So if someone wants to do like I don't know, Balrog lose quote or something, go do the opposite version of what you're doing. But this game sucks, and just flip all the facts that you put out. You can just grift your way into any niche if you really wanted to. If you follow the proper guidelines for making a good YouTube video while you're just stealing information and tech and you don't actually care about whatever you're talking about, you can do it. So it's just funny to think that that actually does exist. But another interesting thing about your position, I find, is that, and also contrasting again to that thread, because I feel like that's such a good way to view a lot of people's perceptions about content creation in the fighting game space. You're not like an influencer, right? I think that's a good contrast to make, because you have the ability to influence, and you do influence by presenting these topics in a passionate way. People do get interested in influence about these games, and it's in a positive direction. But you're not like an influencer, right? Like you're a faceless YouTube
Yeah,
channel, right? Like
for the most
you're not.
part.
It's not like people want to see GuileWinQuote do something. I want to see GuileWinQuote play this game. I want to see him go do a backflip over a Lamborghini. You know, like what you mentioned before. Like, hey guys, what video should I make next? That's because the product is the persona on screen, and you're trying to put them into different situations because you want to see the persona dance for the audience, right? And I feel like that's such a powerful position to be in, because you don't have that pressure. Like you can really do what you want in a way, because there's no expectation of return necessarily, and it's not tied to you as a person, which is something recently I've been really like thinking about. How even though I've been a much more like on camera kind of personality based content creator for a long time, I kind of wish I could pivot. I can get away from that and get off camera and do a bit more like what you're doing, because I think there's a freedom there. I don't know if you ever thought about that difference in your content creation path compared to
No,
others.
yeah, for sure. But first of all, you're Mr. Street Fighter on YouTube. Like you can't stop now, you know?
We'll see. We'll
But
see.
yeah, I mean I do get hit with the joke is that, I'm like an SNK or like a Capcom plant, like I make a
Mm,
video and then like, oh, a re-release gets announced or something. That's like the
okay.
joke. That's as
Okay.
far as it goes, but yeah, like people have asked me, it's like, oh, why don't you stream? Why don't you do this? And it's like, well, streaming is a whole nother skill. It's hard as
Hmm.
hell. I don't think I can do that. But yeah, like you said, like I don't necessarily think me myself, I'm the product. I think my enthusiasm is, if that makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, I'm definitely glad that you know, I'm not I guess like the face. You know, in a way, it's kind of a double-edged sword because Guile is the face, which is like not like, you know, that's a copyrighted character. Not that I'm gonna like do anything, you know, not like I'm gonna sell
Right.
like GuileWinQuote plushies or something. But it is like funny because it's like I've had the thought, it's like I don't think it would ever happen, but like Capcom could be like, hey, like stop, you know, like
Right.
stop with GuileWinQuote, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely like this position. Also, just, you know, because I feel like, you know, people are mean and weird on the internet. And, you know, I already like I hear things about, you know, the only time I've ever gotten like because I'm never like on camera, I was in a collab with JM Crofts. And this is gonna sound bad. It's funny. I'm not hurt by it or whatever. But you know, I'm in JM Crofts' video. We do a collab. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna check out the comments. And someone's like, he can afford calves but not braces. And I'm like,
Mm.
damn, you know, like what's going? I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know. So I'm like, you know, I'm glad that I'm a faceless entity sometimes, for the most part, you know, because
Yeah.
now people can just like make fun of the way I pronounce things and not me as a person, you know, like
Mm.
as not that there, I guess there would be a lot to, you know, but the one
Right.
time I was like, you know, I did get attacked, so
Right.
I definitely do think, and there's like I guess there's like a mystique to it. I don't know, maybe.
No, there definitely is. I think there definitely is because yeah, you come across there's still like this. I mean, you're kind of destroying that mystique by doing this. By the way, I wasn't sure if you'd want to do this because I
I
did.
mean,
It's something I thought of when I asked you to come on the podcast. I've like you kind of have this faceless persona that does give it when the mind can wander like that. They can think of who's this guy who knows so much about these ancient fighting games, right? He's coming to us from above, delivered to us by the YouTube algorithm, and he's blessing us with this knowledge. Who is this person? We'll never know, and now we know. And it's like it does kind of kill that mystique a little bit. Do you think about that?
I mean, I've been on Triple KO and stuff with like Maximilian, Justin Wong, Matt, McMuscles and stuff. So I felt that was like the first time I had like really like I guess put myself out there. Uh,
Right.
I guess at first there was never like the real idea of like, oh, I want to be like faceless, but in the because like, oh, I'm never gonna show myself. I want to be mysterious. It was just like,
Mm,
yeah, like I want the focus to be on the game, like not myself. I don't want to do
right.
like and like, what am I gonna do? Like skits in the middle of my video? You know, like old like angry video game nerd like type stuff, like where I
Right.
destroy the game or something. But yeah, it is. I guess it also helps because in a sense of like appearing more on camera because I do like go to tournaments. You know, I go to Combo Breaker, I go to Evo, I run games at Texas Showdown. I definitely think like appearing in the fighting game community when you're like making stuff for the fighting game community is like good because it shows that like you're one of us. You're actually here. You
Hmm.
actually play these games, so it gives like a bit of authenticity. But yeah, for like my channel itself, I want the focus to, you know, solely be the games. I don't need to be, you know, that's why I try not to like crack jokes as much. Like early on, I would like throw jokes in and stuff, but like as I've gotten, I'm like, I don't think people are clicking on my video to hear like a gag, like a joke
Right.
that I might think is funny that might just fall flat. I think they're here because they want to know about this fighting game. So like, let's make the
Mm,
focus the fighting game.
right. That's awesome that you think about that because I talked about that in the video as well. But I feel like doing good YouTube, like content creation in general, is about value proposition. That's kind of the analogy I've been using a lot. Where art is just about self expression. Do whatever the hell you want. It doesn't matter if anyone else on the planet finds it valuable or not, because it's about expressing your true self. And if other people enjoy that and find some kind of meaning in that to them, great, awesome, we can share that. If not, no skin off the artist's back, right? But content creation, I think, just by the nature of the medium, it's an exchange of value. Like you're spending your time to consume this, so there better be value in what I get out of it. Like you make a promise with the title and thumbnail, and then you better deliver on that. The promise might be this might be humorous, this might be make me emotional, this might make me angry, it might be some rage bait, something I want to complain about on the internet, or it might be I want to learn about this topic, and you got to deliver on that. And so you found the value proposition for your channel and you've really narrowed in on it, which is not your personality, right? It's your knowledge and expertise about whatever topics, and you deliver that and return that. So I think finding that very clear understanding of what you're giving back to the viewer and what you want to focus on is very, very valuable, just for them and for your own performance as a content creator. Because that's what I also see is people saying, like, or an issue I see with new content creators in the FGC is they're often just uploading themselves playing ranked or something, and they even approach it from, oh, let me set the expectations low so they're not disappointed when they click on the video and I'm not a pro player and I'm not that great. And one of the people in my comment section was like, yeah, I do this series where I play a character for a week and then I upload the video on YouTube. And then the video is titled like, a low-level player plays Rashid for a week and loses a lot. And I'm like, what is the promise here? Like, it's a promise that I promise you when you click on this video, I'm not that good and I'm playing a character I'm not that versed with and I don't know much about. And I'm like, you made a great promise for me to not click on that video. Like, you gave me every reason in the world that I should not watch this video. Where, like, you could rephrase that or reframe it and restructure the whole video to be someone new. Yes, you're not an amazing player and you are new. Use that to your advantage. Show some kind of growth. This is, I tried Rashid for a week. Here's what I learned, right? And then in the beginning, you set out your expectations currently. You show how you grew as a player, what you learned, and what you implemented by the end, and you have a story suddenly. So I feel like that's something that's so missed in so many YouTube videos where they're just like pumping out gameplay and there's no value to anyone at all.
Like, you've like spoken on this before, and I kind of mentioned it in my comment that I replied, that people like Justin Wong, Maximilian get to upload gameplay because like they've earned that, people click on them because they're Justin Wong and Maximilian,
Right.
You as a random person have not earned that. So, and I 99% guarantee you that you're not the next punk, in your gameplay. Probably. Right. So you have to have like some kind of like you said, value proposition where you need to structure your video in a way, like I said, where if you get a click, it's a tiny miracle. You need to give them something. You need to have structure. You need to have a purpose to this video. Even if it's just you playing ranked, I feel like you're the one who kind of, I guess, like really perfected that for the modern FGC, where it's like, yeah, this is my ranked gameplay, but there's a purpose. There's a goal here. Either there's like a funny incident or like I'm building up to something.
Right.
And yeah, I feel like if you're making videos, the number one thing I would say is, of course, I mean, this is beyond just like, is this a passion project? Is this like, is this creative or is this like building towards something? I feel like you either have to have like a goal and actually edit something, or like you need a script, because like that will like set you apart from like 90% of everyone else. And again, it's still luck. It might not work, but if you do get that miracle click, you're more likely to keep someone than, a little box in the corner of someone that I don't know, that I've never seen, that I don't recognize, who's not winning tournaments. Even if it's like your 1600 MR, it's like road to 1800. That simple thing is like, that establishes you and gives the viewer like, okay, this guy's doing something. There's a reason
there's
why
stakes.
I'm clicking it.
There's stakes at hand, and then there's a chance for success or failure, and you want to resolve that tension by the end of the video. And yeah, I love your comment about people watch the Max and Justin Wong lazy reaction videos because they're Max and Justin Wong. Like, yeah, if you want to be like the fighting game GOAT for 20 years and win every tournament for every game and then start making lazy reaction videos, or like make the world's greatest tutorial edutainment series of all time and then retire to making reaction videos, go ahead and do that, right? Like, they didn't just wake up and start doing reaction videos and start getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views, right? It was because they established their expertise in their realms over years, and they built rapport with the audience, and they established expertise, and people know they'll get value out of their perspective, or they want to understand their perspective because of what they've accomplished in the past. So yeah, like reaction videos and even streaming, in my opinion, is a luxury of the established content creator. Like, you can't copy what people are doing when they're already successful, because that's not what they did to get into that position in the first place. And that's the other thing I mentioned is like, I don't think anyone should be streaming. Like, I think streaming, if you're new, is such a waste of time. And that's something that I wish I had like balanced better when I first started, But I guess when I first started, I was in my years of grinding like competitively, so it was more me double dipping my practice time. So maybe I wouldn't have done it differently. But if I was trying to only do content creation, spending all those hours streaming is wasting your time. You're spinning your wheels going nowhere. Like, you're not going to build an audience on Twitch. And that's always a frustrating point to talk about, because even on that video, someone commented, they were saying, well, if only other streamers supported other streamers, maybe we could grow on Twitch. Like, if you just collabed more, and if the big guy helped out the little guy. And I'm like, no, that's not the point.
You know,
like, that's not the point.
Very early on, I had a very, I guess, like that lesson where a big creator, like someone who had like, you know, close to like 100,000 subscribers, made a video that was like similar to the realm of videos that I made. And, you know, I felt threatened, you know, I was like, oh shit, like, you know, this is my whole shtick. And now someone so much bigger than me is doing the same thing. So I messaged them and I was like, hey man, like I saw you do this. I do something similar. Do you want to collab? And he was like, no, you know, like he didn't say that, but he was like, nah, it's okay. And, you know, like, of course I felt like a little bitter, but that was more of like me being like shit, like, you know, like I'm going to lose like the little traction I'm getting, you know? But, you know, that was a lesson that I was like, yeah, I can't expect to be given, you know, the handout, as you said, you know, like I just kept doing the same thing that I did. And thankfully, you know, it worked out because I felt like I hit a niche that wasn't like fully being explored on YouTube at the time. But yeah, you can't, as soon as you're blaming the audience, I feel like you might be too far gone a little with your dooming. Because like, if a movie bomb, like, you know, I promise your YouTube video is probably not like some avant-garde art piece that's going to be understood 20 years from now, you know? So you just have to get into the mindset of like, hey, this might not work out. I've had videos that have bombed. Not everything has like been a success. Things that I feel like, oh, this is going to be amazing for my channel, turned out to not be good. The video, I just uploaded a video that I was like, this is going to be a surefire. And I uploaded it and it had 9 out of 10 on, you know, the YouTube ranking. And that was the first time in a long time where something has like been that low. And, you know, I was like, oh God, like what'd I do? But, you know, I checked the watch time. It had like 10 minutes, the average watch time, you know, I had a bunch of likes. All the comments were positive. And, you know, I could sit there and be like, wow, like, what did I, like, you should think about, like, what did you do that maybe have affected this? But, you know, like, I can't, like, stew in it. You know, I can't be, like, mad. I can't be like, why aren't people clicking my video? This is, like, what is wrong with y'all? You know, like, you just gotta take it on the chest and keep going. So, and I feel like, you know, publicly dooming is kind of bad for the brand as well. At the same time, if you're on Twitter complaining that people aren't going to click your video, do you think people are going to click on your video? Like,
no, so you don't want sympathy. You don't ever want sympathy support. I've seen a lot of FGC creators dip into that, like sympathy support, and I'm like, that pity support is temporary and it's not genuine, and you're not learning to actually fix the core issue. Like, if something is not working, you need to actually fix it and not go for the pity view, because it's just not gonna, it's not sustainable. Like, if people don't actually have a genuine passion, and it can hurt your channel or your content creation in the long run, because you might get an influx of viewership from the wrong audience, and then they get recommended your videos in the future, they ignore it, your click-through rate starts plummeting. Like, you're trying to game the system in a way which can actually hurt you in the long run, where really you're trying to narrow down your niche to find exactly who wants to watch your videos and deliver for them. So you really have to focus in on that. And the other thing you mentioned about like blaming the audience, it's like, your job is to figure out what they want to watch. Like, either you're trying to make videos that you want to watch because you want to make it itself, or if you have like a wider range of things you could make, if you're trying to narrow in on what would be the most popular, that's your job, because the audience doesn't know what they want. Like, that's something, you know, I don't particularly use Apple products myself or anything, but there's a big philosophy that they've had which made them successful, which is like, the consumer doesn't necessarily know what they want until you show it to them. That is not their job. Their job is to just react to whatever's put in front of them. The member of the audience on YouTube doesn't know what they want to watch. It's whatever gets put into their feed, and then that they're like, oh, that grabbed my attention, I'm going to click on that. There's no thought process there. It's mindless. It's just natural reaction to what they see on their feed. They don't know what they want to watch. I watch YouTube videos all the time about topics I've never heard of. And that's part of the appeal sometimes. I did not know I wanted to watch this, and now I do. And that's your job as a creator to figure out.
And yeah, and that's the joke that, you know, watching the 6-hour video essay on the video game I've never played, you know,
Right.
sort of thing. Which is why, you know, like my mission statement was, I want anyone who clicks on this video, even if you don't care about fighting games. I literally got a comment today, like the first notification I saw when I woke up this morning was, your videos make me feel like I know how to play fighting games when I don't. Which was like beautiful. I was like, that's all I want, you know?
Right.
So yeah, you know, they don't know, the audience doesn't know what they want, but I promise you they probably don't want a jury trailer reaction from you.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't know you.
Yeah.
So
If you're gonna do that, that's the difference, right? Like the value proposition type of videos. If your value proposition in the video is something to do with personality or some established expertise that you haven't demonstrated yet, it's not gonna work. It's not going to work. Like, I don't care about who you are or why you're reacting to something. Like, occasionally that can work if you're doing like over the top reactions and somehow you break through. But then people over time recognize, oh, this personality is engaged, and they slowly build that brand. But that means that if you're a fighting game player and your expertise that you're starting with is, I know fighting games, and it's not, I am an engaging personality, that means you have to suddenly shift your focus to building your personality brand instead of your fighting game expertise brand. So I feel like you've already put your eggs in the wrong basket, and you're making a channel about fighting games, but the value proposition is your personality, and no one cares about you. Like, no one likes you. Like, you know, and that's something that like I mentioned before, I feel like I don't want to be in that lane anymore, because I've kind of been in between for a long time. I think it's great when you can just let the expertise do the talking. There's something really great about that, and that's most of the YouTube videos I've been watching lately. I'm trying to get more into that direction of the faceless YouTube videos, because even with your channel, the very first video I saw that you put out was I think it's Super Turbo is Broken. You don't even narrate that one. It's 100% music, gameplay, and text on screen describing the technical situations happening. And that video is great. That's one of your best performing videos, I think, right?
yes, that one and Third Strike is Broken. That's like kind of like a riff on, there was a creator named Hugh. This goes back to FGC ripping off Smash. He created Melee is Broken, and then it Brawl is Broken, whatever. So I was like, oh, like, why don't we have that but for fighting games? So, and you know, Street Fighter 2 is the very first Kasuge, you know, it's the very first crazy broken game that we still love and play to this day. So yeah, that was, yeah, again, like just like the very beginning, I saw something that existed in Smash because they're 10 years ahead of us for some reason, and I was like, all right, let me do the exact same thing but for fighting games, which I think is good, you know, in the sense that you should recognize like what is missing from your space that you care about, and I can fill that niche because that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what you did. You know, we saw something that was missing that exists in other places that was successful. And, you know, I feel like I have the ability to, you know, fill that niche. And so.
Is there anything right now that you feel is really missing from the FGC?
Oh, man.
Right
absolutely.
now in content creation?
So there's only one person doing it. It's Papa Lobster, and he is fantastic at doing it. But FGC retrospectives, like what I brought up earlier with Smash, you'll have a 3-hour documentary on a guy who it's like not important, you know, in the grand scheme of things, in the sense that like, hey, this person won a tournament in 2010, but he did something weird. Now here's this 3-hour video about it. But there's no 3-hour video on Capcom Cup 2015. You know, there's no Capcom Cup on all of the Street Fighter 4 Evos. Like, you know, like when Papa Lobster recently put out a video talking about Latif and Street Fighter 4 Evo 2011. That before 2015, that was my favorite Evo. That was like the most insane Evo. Daigo getting knocked out, like it was crazy. Punko
ripping his shirt off.
It was beautiful. And so like his video focused on Latif, and which is an amazing story because no one knew who the hell this guy was. He was playing C Viper. It was awesome, but there's so many other stories just from this one tournament that I remember, that you remember, that people who got into fighting games through the pandemic, Strive, Street Fighter 6, they have no idea about, like, I feel like they know who Daigo is because of the Daigo parry, but it, like, to them, Daigo's probably like this, like, he's an older player, like, who all of the boomers love for some reason. He's not gonna win a tournament, but there was a time where, like, Daigo was the Michael Jordan where, like, everyone was like, I want Daigo to win, and when Daigo got knocked out of a tournament, like, viewership dropped, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Daigo is that guy, you know? And, like, he
Mhm.
could have taken any tournament. And, I feel like, I mean, that's just me being nostalgic about what I grew up with and what I loved and what I was passionate about, but yeah, if I wasn't making the videos that I was making, I feel like that would have been the direction. And if you want to be more
Mm.
faceless with things, if you want to feel that niche, if
Mm.
anyone wants to feel that niche, I feel like there's just so many great stories about, like, I mean, I love GamerB. You know, he still streams Street Fighter 6. People who know, who are deep into fighting games know GamerB, but like, I wouldn't expect the average Street Fighter 6 player to care about GamerB because, like, you
Right.
know, but like, I love this guy. Whenever I see him, I get so happy. Whenever I see Bonchan, I get so happy, you know?
Right.
And I feel like with what Smash does for their players, we could be doing for ours.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%. I mean, that's why I've been doing on my channel, I do like the tournament CPT recaps because I mean, it's been going on since Street Fighter 5, right? As someone who like got known in the scene in Street Fighter 5, I started playing in Street Fighter 4, but I was going to tournaments and like I would be watching tournaments and like no one, I mean, people hated the game, so that added another like level of disdain for the whole experience. But anyone who found success during that era was looked at like you're a scrub. Like you like the better you were at Street Fighter 5, the worse of a fighting game player you were. And like all the players were constantly disrespected. And I went through that personally myself. And I was like, this is stupid, dude. Like people were like, oh, who's this random guy winning? And it's like that guy has been winning tournaments online in all these regions and or they like, oh, where's X, Y, or Z player? That guy you're talking shit about eliminated them off stream in top 64. You know, like there's all, even within the same tournament, the players get shit on because there's no context and there's no storyline being built up. And I've seen that for years. So now I do the CPT recaps because, for one, Capcom is doing a horrible job of doing the CPT. No one even knows the events are going on.
Yeah.
And two, the storylines are lost by the format itself. Like, even if you watch everything, it's so disconnected. You can't tell where the players are and how they intermingle and where everyone stacks up. Then three, the players that participate in the tournament, no one knows their history or like why it matters that they got here or where they came from. So like when I do those recaps, I try to always like bring like any player who has a storyline, figure out what the storylines are in the tournament, highlight the players, where they came from. Is this a rematch? Have they been fighting throughout the season? Did they fight 20 years ago in a different title? So I've been really looking into doing that throughout the past season. So because I've seen that lack of understanding and the kind of the dissolving of our cultural history and awareness in the scene, especially from the jump from, you know, pre-COVID to now, we've lost a lot of that collective memory. And so when I saw Papa Lobster doing a lot of those retrospectives, I'm like, okay, that's great for me. It's nostalgic, but also it tells the story so that other people who have come after this time can understand why these players have these legacies and where these stories come from. But yeah, there can definitely be a lot more. That's very true.
And Papa Lobster's like channel, it's successful. Like his videos, like some of his videos have gotten over 100,000 views because like the video writes itself in the sense that like something cool happened. Let me tell you about this cool thing that happened.
Right.
You know, let me tell you about how Kane Blue River beat Filipino champ. You know,
Right.
like let me tell you how Alex Valle beat Bonchan. You know, it just writes it, like these things kind of write themselves. And you know, I always say that, like, you know, I keep talking about, you know, Evo 2015, Capcom Cup 2015, but like the amount of storylines, like, you know, Kioma, you know, Infiltration, Momochi, like all of those are like just like they're just beautiful moments, and I feel like yeah, they've been just kind of lost to time. And like you said, the format doesn't really help it. You know, the old format had its issues, of course, but yeah, you don't really get storylines because a player wins something and there's no gatekeeping or anything. They stop playing until Capcom Cup, you know?
Yeah. It literally removes the storylines as they form.
Yeah.
On top of people not wanting to travel because it's like too top heavy where if I'm not guaranteed to get first, I might as well just stay home and do World Warrior and then the people who do get guaranteed first just stay home because they already qualified. Yeah, it's kind of on both ends. It's not really building or lending itself to building storylines. So that's rough.
I also think just like another thing, and this is like I guess like a more selfish desire. You know, you have like Theory Fighter, but I would love for people to like dive into more like mechanics and their nuances and like I guess their grander application. Because I mean, Theory Fighter has a video that has 300,000 views about Ryu's Far Fierce in Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Right.
That shouldn't be a video that gets 300,000 views, you know? But it is because he packaged it and he said like, this is the punch that changed Ryu. That's
Right.
automatically interesting. And like, let's see how like Capcom adding, you know, that to the game, like changed everything and why 300,000 people, you know, will click on that. And again, all of this stuff exists in Smash. There's insane videos about like the most like nuanced like topics like ever.
Right.
You know, in Smash. So
yeah. That's one
I
thing
feel like
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, I feel like there's a lot of areas in the FGC that haven't been explored. Obviously, I would like you to have the passion for those in the first place before you make videos on this. And I know that's not, I feel like maybe a lot of the people who especially watch you, they want to be gameplay guys. They want to just like, hey, like here is like me improving at the game. But I guess there's a difference in, you can do that, nothing is stopping you. But if you're wanting and treating YouTube as something you want to grow in, you have to realize that, you know, you're not going to fill that niche. And,
right.
You know, you got to be realistic about things.
Right. But that is a niche that people could fill because if you're a gameplay guy, you can understand why a mechanic works the way it does and understand its implications. And then the skill then you have to develop is how do you tell a story out of that, right? So I think the other problem is you have to develop multiple skills. So I do think content creation is great if you establish any kind of skill in any area, and then you figure out how to put that on YouTube. So if you're a gameplay guy, 100% you can do things about mechanics and breakdowns that aren't tutorials, right? There's a difference between tutorials and like a story about a mechanic or some kind of piece of tech. Like you can make, maybe there was a patch that made something from +1 to +2 and how one frame broke the game. I don't know what that video is, but that's a video somewhere, right? I bet you can find a patch somewhere where someone made something more +1 on hit and then it completely changed the balance or how something worked, and you can structure the video around how this balance change changed something. And you can understand that because you're a competent player and you've developed your skill to really understand those implications. But then you have to do it in a way that actually comes across on YouTube. So yeah, I agree. There's lots of things people can be doing.
And it doesn't need to be like a grand like video essay either. I know like I feel like I'm alluding to that, you know, like that's what we need. But you know, Jane Crofts, Broski have like filled the niche of like, hey, here's like this weird interaction or weird thing in this game. You know, Jane Crofts, Dragon Ball Fighters, Marvel 2, Broski, Street Fighter 6, and it's like, here's what this thing is, here's how it works, here are the implications. And it's been successful, you know?
Right.
I'm not keeping up with Street Fighter 6 competitively, but you know, I'm clicking Broski's video about this weird thing Chun-Li has that I've never, like, you know, that I hadn't thought about or never seen because it's a good format. And there's not like heavy editing. There's not like, you know, there's probably an outline, but he's not like reading off a script, you know, and it works and it's like good stuff. You don't need to make an essay is what I want to get to. But you can't just upload gameplay.
Right. Definitely. Have you ever thought about actually doing that competitive retrospective channel? Because something I'm seeing with your style is and I know you're saying you do this part-time and it's not a career or anything, but I think your talent and the way your skill you develop for YouTube could be something where you could create another channel and do a very similar branding and style and just change the focus and slightly tweak the mission statement and go from there. So have you considered doing that?
No, only because it's like, damn, the YouTube is so much work, man. Like already, and I make one video a month,
right?
And I'm already like, it already takes up so much time, and like my videos end up getting longer. You know, it's. I feel like my script writing and my editing has gotten more concise, but my videos have gotten somehow longer, which is like funny. But So personally, no, I selfishly want someone else to do it, but who knows, maybe. I'm not gonna write it off completely, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah, I know you're not in this for the business side of things, but that is something that I've been thinking about a lot more recently, and I can see that as being like a franchise, maybe completely destroying your whole narrative about, or your whole fundamental belief about this being a passion project, not for money, but you could definitely franchise what you're doing. And I mean, maybe we have too many like game theory, food theory, whatever, the theories are all over
Yeah,
the
yeah,
place,
yeah, yeah.
but you found a great formula, which I think there would be a lot of interesting content that could come about expanding that focus, and you have other areas of interest that you could share that with. So who knows, maybe one day I'd love to see your video that you want to see about Evo 2015. Maybe you have to be the one to make it.
The greatest tournament of all time, I promise you. If you've never seen it, that is Street Fighter. That is peak Street Fighter to
Or
me.
Evo or Capcom Cup 2015, which one?
Both, but if I had to pick one, man.
I think Capcom Cup.
Capcom Cup, I hate to say it, like the ending is bittersweet to Capcom Cup in a way. Cause it's like the ending that no one wanted, but like it was like the
But
correct
I
ending.
love it. It gives me
It
chills
was
thinking
the
about
correct
it.
ending.
I love it because at the end it's like Daigo is finally coming back to reclaim his throne as being like the bookends of Street Fighter 4's life, like winning the Evos and then winning the final Capcom Cup. And right when he's about to get it at the very end, it's like, Kazunoko with the anime, like he's coming out from the shadows with the sheen on his glasses, and it says, "Nope, let me take that with my
It was
fucking crackhead, disgusting young gameplay." The way the game truly is.
It was the antithesis of what every Street Fighter player talked about. Like, we can
Yes.
never lose. Like, here's our GOAT of the game. And we lost to an anime player in
Right.
the last Street Fighter
And not just an
tournament.
anime player, like the most degenerate, like there was, at that time, there was that people romanticize footsies and fundamentals so much during that era. And I'm watching Kazunoko and I'm like, he's not doing what you guys are saying. You guys keep saying this, but this guy is doing dive kick into DP on block and like wake up command grab and mashing nonstop. And he won the whole thing. So I think he's pretty good. I think it was the appropriate ending. Like Street Fighter 4 got what it deserved in the end. And then Daigo, I mean, he had the Ryu moment. He didn't even show up for the awards ceremony. He just walked off to find his next challenge. I think Capcom Cup 2015 ended perfectly, in my opinion.
It's peak fighting games. Everyone else who didn't get into fighting games yet, you don't know what you missed. I'm sorry. The peak has already gone.
True. Well, before we wrap this up, there is one more topic I wanted to get into with you. If you want to share a little bit, I'm curious about your actual process for YouTube video creation. And this might, I don't know if the audience wants to hear, this is for me almost. What is your process about when you go about setting forth to create a video? So you have all these different games that you like to do these deep dives in. Does it start with the game? And then how do you figure out the actual creation, script writing, editing, gathering footage? Can you walk me through that?
So it sounds funny when I say it out loud, but every month I just think about like, okay, like I need a video. Like, what's the next game I talk about, And since I've played so many games, I just like think about like, oh, could I, write something interesting for this? Or do I have like an idea of how to like sell it? Like I think about the title, like what would get someone to click on this? Like, would this even be interesting to click on in the first place? And there have been games where like I've recorded footage, I've done all this, and then I like try to write something about it. I'm like, I don't have anything interesting to say about this, So yeah, I pick something and then I just feel like, okay, like I need something interesting to say. And if I feel like I have that, then I'll start writing like a basic script about it and I'll start playing the game again, essentially with alts on Fightcade, because it got to a point where I would get into a lobby on Fightcade and people would be like, oh, are you GuileWinQuote? Rank 1st to 20. And it's like, oh, dude, like I don't need this, like I want cool. I almost want like, I mean, usually when someone's playing a niche game on Fightcade, it's because they're good at it,
Right.
And I kind of want that footage because I want someone to do like the sick, nasty stuff on me anyways. Because like I want to show that the game is cool. But so then I start playing the game again. And then I usually try to reach out to, I guess, like a figurehead in the community and like have them read over the script. Thankfully, like since I've gotten like bigger, like I guess a lot of people in smaller communities kind of see this as like an opportunity to like, oh, more people will play my game, because like there's a joke where right before I was about to post the video, my most recent video, someone tweeted like a screenshot of the Fightcade lobby. And it was like, I'm pre-gaming this Fightcade lobby before the video drops. You know, because
Mm,
there's like, I mean, I hate to sound like full of myself or anything, but like, I guess at this point, there's like an expectation that like, oh, there's going to be this 5K lobby that had 3 people in it is going to have like 30 people in it, 50 people in it for like, you know, a week maybe, or
right.
however the honeymoon lasts. But, so I try to reach out to a figurehead to kind of like, in both like legitimize the script and like see if like there's anything I got wrong, but also I guess in a way to be like, hey, like, there is an exchange going on. Like, I'm not, again, grifting, like, on the
Right.
community. Like, I'm not just, like, like, I've never interacted with you guys, and here's this video, like, I'm, like, talking about it, like, I know your game,
Right.
when I'm, like for a lot of the times, I'm just, like, I like this game, but I'm not grinding it every day. I'm not, like, you know, I'm not actively entering tournaments at every major I go to, you know? So, I don't wanna
It, it's
seem like, again, like a
it's a
poser.
sign of respect.
No, for sure.
You're entering their territory. It's you know, there's kind of an analogy to like real life here. It's like, hey, these are our streets here. Like, who are
Yeah,
you? Like,
no,
what's your business here? Are you just,
because
oh, you're trying to make a quick buck off of us? Like, what is your intention? So you're deferring to their expertise. You're getting their approval. You're making sure you're not like misstating or mischaracterizing the game that they're very passionate about. Yeah, I didn't consider that till right now. It's a very sensitive thing to work on, even though it's kind of silly when you zoom out. It's a
no,
fighting
for
game,
sure.
but like there's an analogy to be made there about talking about any like, I don't want to go that extreme, maybe like a marginalized group, or like a smaller community, like something that's very tight knit, and an outsider comes in to highlight that, and you don't know if you trust them or not. So I didn't consider that till right now, that you have to go through that to make sure that you're doing justice to these communities and to avoid a lot of negative feedback. Like, that could really blow
No,
up in your face if you
bec
approach something incorrectly.
I've seen other creators who are, like, much bigger than me talk about a smaller game and, like, get something wrong. And then
Yeah.
even though that, like, to me, it's like, it's not the end of the world, you know? But, like,
Right.
I've seen these people, like, you know, kinda just, like, write off the creator, like, altogether. Like, months later, it's like, "Oh, I don't like him because he said this about this game," and, like, he didn't do his research, sort of thing.
Right.
When this is, like, someone's, like, passion, you know, you wanna get that right, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking about something that has been mischaracterized, like, for so long, like I said about, like, people referring to Street Fighter, like, older games like Street Fighter clones, you
Mhm.
know? So, I mean, yeah, it is silly once you, like, zoom out, but, like, it is sensitive to a lot of people, and I've seen, you know, colleagues, people that I like that I don't think are doing, you know, they're not, you know, being negative, they're not, I keep saying grifting, they're not grifting, they're just talking
Right.
about something, but they don't have everything there,
Right.
and they get, like, ripped apart, and it's like, guys, it's like, you know, we're arguing about 30-year-old games, it's, like, not that important, but
Right.
you know, when it's someone's like, yeah, when it's someone's like, this is my thing, this is my passion, this is what I compete in. Yeah, I could see
Mm.
like, you know, how it, you know, irks people. So yeah, I try to have that exchange, and, you know, I've never had like a bad experience with that. I've never had someone like, except for whenever I try to buy arcade hardware, I need an alt for that. Cause I've had people be like, are you just buying this so you can make a video on it? And it's like, man, I'm like, I just want to buy it because I like it, you know. But
Yeah.
that's
And
a
so
different thing.
what? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, whatever, man. You're scared you're gonna sell more hardware? Like, like, what's the problem?
That's a different thing.
Uh,
But yeah, so I usually try to get someone, you know, to oversee it, and I always try to shout out the communities that I'm speaking on. I've gotten a little. I've had to learn that like sometimes I will talk about like specific individuals in videos, and then
someone
they'll
will
get
get
canceled.
burned.
Someone will
Oh,
get canceled or something.
you'll
And it's
get
like,
burned.
and it's like, man, now this part of the video kind of like is like it sucks now, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I've had to like, you know, I've like learned through like how to navigate that stuff better. But yeah, I always try to like put out like a hand to the community, like, hey guys, like I'm trying to show the good side of this, you
Right.
know? And I've also like messed up in that regard too, where I made a video on SVC Chaos, which is like, for as long as I've played fighting games, no one has liked that game. Like, people hate that game. People always, and it's like, historically, it's a rushed game. There's a lot, like, goofy with it. But I put out a video and I called it, like, the worst, like, the failed, like, crossover.
Mm,
And yeah, I got attacked. Like, not okay. I say attacked. That sounds dramatic, but I got a lot of negative comments, and it did like affect me in the sense that like this wasn't my intention. I wasn't
right.
trying to make anyone's scene look dumb. I wasn't trying to like hurt anyone's passion in a sense. This is a failed game. Like sales wise, reception wise, it is. But there are like groups of people who, like love it
Right.
to death and they feel like everyone else, craps on this and now you are too, sort of
Like you're
thing.
just like them. Yeah. This happened directly to, I believe it was Justin Wong with Street Fighter the movie, the game. And he put
Yes.
out some videos. Trying out the game, and it was stream footage, a lot of it from what I recall, and he had off the cuff remarks about how bad the game was in terms of like its actual fairness, competitiveness. Like older games have jank, which is like, if judged by today's standards, is garbage. Like you would not accept it, but that's also part of the charm and the fun of these old games, that they're allowed to take these risks and just throw shit at the wall, see what sticks, and you get to go back and enjoy all these really weird and esoteric type of games. And so like I feel like a live stream reaction of like a really jank moment happening, calling a game garbage, to me, as someone from the outside, so I won't speak for that group, I would give that grace and be like, yeah, it's an over the top moment, and it's not meant to be taken too literal or like condemning a whole group of players playing that. But I remember there's a lot of pushback from that, because people are like, wow, you're making fun of Street Fighter the movie, the game. And from my perspective, it's like,
Yeah.
yes, that is the game you make fun. It's a bad game. It's a beautiful bad game, in my opinion, and I think that's fine. But to people in that community who actually participate, I can understand being sensitive about it. I feel like you should be able to give some grace, and there could be, but there's also responsibility on the creator's part for sure to balance those sides, right? To say, yeah, this game might be a little bit not designed in the most modern way where it's fair and balanced, but there's something to be enjoyed regardless. You could do your part to show both sides, but I've seen blowback in some ways where I'm like, I feel like you could give a little bit of grace to the content creator and understand they're just having fun, but it does feed into a negative perception that might potentially harm smaller communities. So it's a hard tightrope to walk.
Yeah. And even with that video that I got pushback on, where in the title I said it's a failed crossover. The video, like, I feel like is mostly positive. But I mean, of
Yes.
course, if you title it something like that, you watch the first 30 seconds. I didn't sell the fact that this would eventually be, something
Mm,
positive. So like, even though like a lot of people are like, yeah, this game does suck. In the end, that's not my intention, and like I learned from that. You
right.
know, and it's
That's
not me like
very
bowing down, like, oh, like I don't want any, like it's no, it's just like, yeah, that wasn't my intention. I'm sorry that you felt this way. Let me see how I could package it better.
right. Taking that feedback in stride like that, I think, is super important too, because it can feel it. I mean, when you put something out where your goal is to be positive and make other people have a positive association with something, and then there's a lot of negative feedback from it, it does suck. It hurts. It's like, man, I wanted everyone to be having a good time. This is my party. Come on over. I'm hosting, and then half the people at your house are pissed at you and booing you. It's like, okay, well, I meant for everyone to have fun. I'm sorry. But you have to be able to take that feedback in stride, because that is an important point you brought up about the thumbnail title. Even if the bulk of the material is seeking praises about something, unfortunately, negativity is just such a great way to get people intrigued. Like you need conflict. I think conflict, not in the sense of just negativity, but like in the sense of a story arc, right? Like a story occurs because there's conflict resolution. Even if it's a children's book and it's all sunshine and daisies, there's still conflict resolution to make it a story, right? So calling something a failed crossover, that to me, it's objectively true. By the way, I think that is an objectively true thing, but you could be like, that is the whole takeaway from the video to most people, because they're just going to see the thumbnail and title and start typing in the comments immediately. And that's something I've been trying to navigate as well, as like the thumbnail title to 95% of the audience is the message of the video. No matter how much detail you go into another direction and how much you're actually like, oh, wait, that was actually a bait and switch. I'm trying to show you how, despite this in the thumbnail and title, this other outcome occurred. If you don't resolve that immediately, like the first line, this is a failed crossover, the video starts, but actually it's a great game. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't immediately come out swinging that, then, you know, there's still a good video to be had there. The takeaway is the thumbnail title. And I'm dealing with that too, because like I've done a few on the Clips channel about Rashid is I've been making the Clips channel more of like a commentary, sort of like off the cuff discussion videos, like kind of YouTube slop, where the main channel I'm trying to focus more on long form videos, more like your style is what I'm kind of
and I've been loving
for.
it, by the way.
Oh,
I listen to it
thank
when
you.
I'm like running and stuff. So
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, there's a. I kind of hate doing that stuff, but I also feel like there's a need for it. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But I've been talking about like the people discussions on Twitter, and I'm trying to come from it from a place of I'm part of the community. I'm not like trying to be grifting from the community and like looking at them like they're zoos or animals in a zoo and like reacting to their social interactions. Like I feel like that's kind of weird content when people do that, just like observing Twitter reactions from a third party and analyzing the characters like they're not humans. That can get ugly quick. I've seen it. But I've been doing that with Rashid and people talking about Rashid tech, and some people get angry, some people don't get angry. They find the tech cool. But the thumbnail title, I do frame the negativity from a lot of community reactions, but in my analysis of it, I say it's interesting and cool, and I don't mind it. I think it's actually really cool tech they put out there, but a lot of people had negative reactions in the community. The comments reflect, why are you complaining about Rashid? Why are you talking negative about this? Why are you bitching? Like, you're a washed up pro and you suck. You know, like I'm getting all these comments and I'm like, well, that hurts me a little bit in the sense that that wasn't my intention. I wasn't trying to complain about Rashid, and now you're angry at me. Well, that sucks. But the responsibility is I leaned into that negativity in the thumbnail title. So there's like a line to be drawn there, or like how do you represent conflict without taking a side on it and making that the perception entirely of the video, even when your messaging and the actual bulk of the content is something completely different. It's really hard to ride that line, especially when it generates clicks so well.
Yeah, even with, you know, that video, I made a tweet about it because like, you know, I saw someone post about it. Like they posted the thumbnail and like the title for the failed crossover. So I quoted it and I was like, you know, this taught me like a valuable lesson that like, you know, no matter what like is in the video, you know, like the way you package it, like that's all that matters. And I still got replies being like, well, you were negative, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I feel like I broke face a little and like explained my video on Twitter, which I feel like is kind of like the opposite of what you should do.
Yeah.
You know, even though most of the audience like reception was like positive, this was like an outlier, you know?
Right.
But even like explaining like this wasn't my intention. And even though like objectively, I feel like it's a failed thing, I go into more of it and I still got replies like, well, it's not a failure. And it's like, okay, like maybe I don't know. I'll
Can't
just
please
learn.
everybody.
I'll just learn from it. You know,
Yeah.
I'll just learn from it.
Yeah, not all feedback means you have to completely comply with what one person says, but it is feedback. And that's something that I've been trying to really understand is like, even when people say off the cuff insane things in your YouTube comments, you have to filter through it. There might be something valuable in there, or it might be just complete nonsense. And there is feedback there. It's like, well, if you focus on a negative aspect of something that people are passionate about, even if you sing its praises, some people will react negatively. Is that something you're okay with or not? Right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And that's
there
the
is like something that I think about a lot is I got a comment on my Third Strike is Broken video talking about how, you know, I talk about how Akuma has a super that can't be parried. The first hit can't be parried, and so you could do unblockable setups with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a comment that said like, you could parry that, bro. Like you're an idiot. And I was like, and so I replied, I was like, hey, like go ahead and like record the first ever video of like someone pairing this. Like I would love for you to do that sort of thing. You know, it's like a little bit tongue in cheek, but you know, I kind of realized like this guy, like he's wrong. He's just wrong.
Right.
But he's probably going to look at my channel forever. Like, man, this guy lied in this video. You know, like he had this 20-minute video and this one part, he's a liar and he's lying to everyone. And but it's like, and like, what do you do at that point? You know, it's like, you're just wrong. And I'm sorry that you're wrong. I want to educate you, but yeah, you're going to have people.
You have the second channel where you take the comment and you break down exactly. That's what I literally just did, right? I had the cheater video. And that's actually what kind of spurred the commentary channel. It was an off the cuff thing of me running to a scripter in ranked, an auto DI scripter. And then it was just, I have a clips editor who just like takes stuff from the stream and throws it up there. And that's what it's been for a long time. And then everyone's like, oh, bro, you're just salty that you got bodied. You're doing so predictable with Terry's burn knuckle. Of course they DI'd you on frame 4, frame perfectly every single time with inhuman reactions and frame perfect accuracy. So I went through a video like replying to those comments and just like a little tongue-in-cheek, but also more just like fact.
Here's
like,
why I thought this. Here's why I came to this conclusion.
Right. So it turns like negative moments where people are factually incorrect and just kind of like showing their ass in your comments to a learning opportunity to both disprove them wrong, maintain your like brand, or like you maintain your, I don't know, because your credibility is what I'm going for, right?
Your
integrity.
Like
your brand and your credibility is based on your knowledge of these games. If people are constantly challenging that or saying that you're incorrect or you're lying or you're wrong, that is something that hurts your credibility, which is what your entire content is based on. Your content works as a credibility that what you're saying in these videos is correct and that you have this information that you verified and that we can trust. So that's why it kind of cuts as a content creator when people say stuff like that, because not only is it frustrating that they're so wrong, like they're just absolutely wrong, and they're being an asshole about it while being wrong. It is something that if other people start reading that and believing it, it can damage your reputation, your credibility going forward, and hurt the performance of other content that you do in the future. So yeah, you can do the second channel where you don't have to be snarky about it. You can just show the comment and then deep dive into that one moment. It provides another opportunity for another reflection, right?
You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong.
There's ways to spin it to offer more learning opportunities for everybody involved, because I think that would be interesting to see about that. Super.
Go into training mode, turn on a bot that parries everything. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. But
short video. I guess making it short.
But to go back to, I guess, like the process. After so I play games on Fightcade. I usually do it anonymously. I have a million Fightcade ranks. Maybe you've played my alt at some point, dear viewer. Who knows. And then I just go. So I do a video a month. And I spend like a week, I guess, in my brain, I compartmentalize it as like, this is vacation mode. We're like, okay, I just released a video, time to see the reception and not think about making another video. Now I get to play Marvel Rivals with my friends, because like for the rest of the time, I'm just doing this,
Right.
And then once it gets to like the second week of the month or whatever, I start like, brainstorming. Okay, what am I thinking? And then I start playing the game a little bit, and then I start writing. And then after I write and I get like a body, I start playing the game like, I guess, even more, to like confirm. Because sometimes I do go into videos like with a bias already, where it's like, oh, like I know this game is cool already. Or like, oh, this game is a little janky. But then I play it, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it's like way better than I thought or something, Right. I've had moments like that. So I finalize, and then I usually spend like a week and a half or like 2 weeks just like editing. And this is probably like an hour a day, or if like, my girlfriend is like hanging out with her friends or something, it's like, okay, this is a night I could spend like fucking 6 hours just like knocking this out. And to anyone wanting to get into content, I use DaVinci Resolve. It's free. They make real movies with this program.
Right.
Learn how to use Resolve. It will change your life.
I know Double A is nodding his head right now. The Brian F YouTube channel is made off the back of DaVinci Resolve. I use Sony Vegas because when I edited my first ever video, there was a humble bundle for like $5 that had Vegas 14. And to this day, that's all I use if I edit something.
I tried to do that at first, and I was like, man, this is like too complicated. And then I went to Premiere, and then I was like, okay, let me put on my big boy pants and start using Resolve. But at the same time, I don't even like edit like crazy anyways. A lot of the times, this is another important mantra that I'll just throw in. Something that I've noticed from a lot of fighting game creators is that whenever they speak on something, the footage on screen doesn't reflect what they're talking about.
Yes.
And it bugged me you could be talking about like, man, this character is so broken and has this really strong tool, and the footage is of like an old tournament of that character losing.
Right.
And it's like, what are you trying to convey to me right now, So You know, my whole thing is like, okay, I'm gonna have a concise script that doesn't waste your time, and everything on screen is going to be somewhat related to what I'm speaking on.
Right.
So most of my editing is like, my timeline is like 300 clips, because it's just like, I'm talking about this, talking about this, talking about this, and I want the video to actually reflect that, because I don't want. I know most people watch YouTube very casually in the sense that, you know, it's in the background or something a lot of the time. But if someone were to look at my video, because I'm talking about like, man, this character's crazy, he can do this crazy juggle, I want to show that juggle, even if
Right.
it takes me 6 hours of recording. You know, like whenever I
Yep.
did Third Strike Is Broken, you know, I had to do, you know, Makoto SA2, you know, Touch of Deaths. I had to learn Ganijin stuff, and I hated it. I was like, dude, I'm not an execution guy. This
Right.
sucks, but what would this video be if I didn't show this? And I also don't want to take someone else's video. I want
That's
to
what I was
like,
about to ask. I was about to ask, have you considered just using clips and maybe credit for if it's a specific combo or something? Like, have you ever hit the point where like this is too much? Because I think I
there.
love that you record it yourself for like consistency and quality as well, and also getting the right shot with the right settings, and also I think it gives you some credibility. Like it gives you some street cred. Like you went through the real shit to get it done. You know, like you actually know what it
Yeah,
feels like to do the combo. But have you
there's
considered going for something else
I
like that?
I I have done that in the past for like stuff that like it's either like hardware or something that I just like I don't have the money or I can't obtain or something.
Hmm.
I don't know if I've ever done it for a combo specifically, but there are actually games that like I get so many comments for like, can you talk about this? Can you talk about this? That like I haven't made a video on because I don't have the execution for. As weird as that, like, you
Mm,
know, Fist of the North Star is one of like my most requested videos.
right.
And it's like, I would not feel comfortable talking about Fist of the North Star if I can't do the basketball combos that last a minute that everyone knows the game for. You
Right.
know? If I were to play Alpha 3, I'm going to need to learn how to do, you know, crouch cancel. You
Right.
know? Even though like it's hard and it sucks and I'm gonna want to die like recording it, you know, but
Mm.
so yeah, there's definitely stuff that I put off just because I feel like there's an authenticity I would lose if I made a Fist of the North Star video and all of the footage was like of just tournaments,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Because it's
No,
like,
I
why am
agree with
I?
that.
How am I an authority? Like if you made the video on that ball rock combo that you know you
Right.
recently did about with all the one frame links, if you just talked about like this is really hard because of this and this and this, and you just kept replaying his Twitter clip, maybe that maybe I'm too deep into the woods where like I think other people wouldn't care, but, like, I feel like I wouldn't care, if that
No,
makes
I
sense,
agree.
if you
I
didn't do
had
it.
the exact same thoughts while doing this because that was supposed to be a quick win video. Like the whole point of the clips channel is supposed to be like more quick win videos so that I can start to spend longer time between videos in the main channel. And I hit a point and I'm like, this is no longer a quick win. I'm sitting here recording and it had been like 3 hours almost. And I was like, I don't know if this is this worth it anymore. And then eventually it came together, but I had that same thought where I was like, if I don't do this combo, first of all, I love grinding combos, so it wasn't actually hard to spend the time doing it. It's more like budgeting my time with real life and content.
Yeah,
Like if I had unlimited time, I would sit here all day doing combos and training mode over and over. Like I actually enjoy doing that. But I was thinking like, oh man, I might need to just like move on and start recording it. But what would the video be if there wasn't a payoff of me actually doing it? And my own personal payoff, because then I'm like, there's a narrative here for myself, and suddenly in this journey, I had never done jab to ultra. That was a technique that I had played this game for 10 plus years, whatever, and I never actually done that. And I mained this character, and I could do all of his other combos, but that was something that like eluded me for so long, and it wasn't worth digging into. Now it's a chance to like uncover that secret, and I figured out like some secrets to get that to actually work, and I was like, whoa, it's real, like. So yeah, I felt that same connection. I'm like, this little touch here of me personally going through the journey kind of completes it and offers credibility to what I'm saying and offers a sense of like a journey to the viewer itself. And I think that adds a whole other element to the video. And credibility
and
is so huge in these kind of videos, I think.
yeah, I feel like I mean, like I said at the very beginning, I didn't watch a lot of YouTube fighting game stuff because I felt like they weren't fighting game players, you know?
Hmm.
But how far that actually goes, I don't know. Would someone have been like, man, Brian F sucks because he couldn't do the hardest
Yes,
part, you
no,
know?
because all the comments were like,
Okay, you know what?
you didn't do it
Yeah.
on arcade stick, you did it on leverless. That
Oh
was, I got
man,
so,
that's insane.
and I was like, bro, that there's no charge execution at all on that combo. I play charge characters on stick for 15 years. Like, give me a break. Like, it's all in the right hand on that one. But a lot of the comments were like, old heads, like, oh, you did it on leverless for cheating, so.
Yeah, because the charge is the hard part. Of
Yeah,
that combo,
I need
right?
to do
Like,
to do an ultra at one point. It's so hard to do on
it's
arcade
not.
stick.
Yeah, it's not the linking or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's the charge that would have lost you. And then I start. I feel like my Twitter is very not a personal Twitter anymore, which I think is like a good thing. Because Twitter kind of like sucks a lot of the times.
Yeah.
So so like the GuileWinQuote Twitter is more of a brand, I will say that, and I do kind of like I do my own little marketing. Like when a video starts like when I'm getting ready to drop a video, I'll start dropping like crazy combos or like stuff that looks cool. So like people will be like, oh, what is this? And then so I kind of just start like marketing towards that. And then the community usually already knows that a video is coming. So they're a lot of the times getting ready to like help new players and stuff get into the
Okay.
game. So yeah, then I drop a video a month and then I pray that it goes well. I usually, whenever I record, I turn off my notifications and everything. Like I don't want to know. Which it might be a bad thing because if I mess up something in a video, like I could just be like, there could be like 5 seconds of silence or something, and like I
Yeah,
wouldn't know
that
because I'm not
happens.
looking at the comments, But yeah, I just like drop it and then I come back to it. I'm just like, okay, like I hope, I'm just letting the algorithm do whatever it does. And sometimes
Interesting.
it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I
So
think that's a good for your own mental health, a good way to approach it, because for people who haven't done YouTube content creation, like those, you get your feedback after 30 minutes, and you can already tell how your video is performing because you get like this in your dashboard, like a mini metrics of your video, like how many views it's getting and like watch time and things like that. So you can already get a perspective of how it's performing relative to your other videos. Then after 30 minutes, it ranks it based on number of views compared to your last 10 videos. So if it's 10 out of 10, that's the worst possible. Like it's doing worse than all other 9 videos that were published in this time frame. 1 out of 10, it's doing better than everything else, right? And then it even has like a solid green arrow if it's like top 3, or like I think 3 out of 10 is like a green arrow if it's doing better than average. Then like a hollow green, like an outline of a green arrow if it's average, and then like a gray arrow pointing down if it's below average, and like a solid gray arrow if it's like really bombing. So YouTube is it's meant to be addictive for the viewer, but they also have engineered it to be addictive for the creator itself. Like it's a little nefarious. This is on purpose. There's addictive forming habits to give feedback to creators so that they come back to make their video more consumable and more popular, which means there's more people spending more time on YouTube. So on both ends of the creator audience spectrum there, YouTube is socially engineering both of us. It's pretty nefarious. So I understand really, closing it during that time period.
It's really brutal because yeah, whenever your video is doing well, you get fireworks. You get a firework animation.
If it's 1 out of 10, the fireworks start going off. It's totally trying to hijack your dopamine receptors and make this addicting. And it's true. It's crazy addicting. I refresh like crazy during that time period. But I do that because I'm addicted. And also, too, you're right. There is times where it's actually important to make a change because there might be a typo in the title. There might be an editing error somewhere, and it's better to just swap it out as soon as you can. There's things that you might have missed that you want to address before it's too set in stone and you don't want to touch the video.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, the thumbnail. We rework thumbnails a lot. Like I look at thumbnails, and if they're not performing well, title thumbnail, I'll completely take time to revamp it within the next couple hours, because that's like 90% of the job of a YouTuber is making a title thumbnail. So.
Yeah, if you've watched the video and then the title changed, no, it didn't. Just let it be.
Right.
But it's it's a real brutal process. But whenever like everything goes right, and you see like average watch time is like something like ridiculous. Like thankfully, I don't know how, but I've been blessed where like I think the average retention time is like 3 to 5 minutes or something like really low.
Really?
But like mine is like 9 to 10 or something,
right?
Which is like usually like halfway through a video, and all the comments are, I've never had a video that has been like, thumbs down like a lot or anything like that. So at the end of the day, even like with, like I said, my latest video, I thought it was a surefire win. Like in my head, it got ranked 9 out of 10. But when I think about it, I look back and it's like, man, 30,000 people clicked on a King of Fighters video for
Right.
like a game that came out 20 years ago. All in all, like that's amazing. If I would have had that 4 years ago, I would have died, you know? So like I
Right.
can't let YouTube, make me want to like jump off a cliff, you
Yeah,
know?
they put you on the hedonistic treadmill real quick, right? Like whatever your past success was, you get numb to it, and that's the benchmark at which you judge yourself going forward. So it's definitely tough as a creator to deal with that. But yeah, it's good to remember that if you have any level of success on YouTube, and if anyone watches your videos, like if 100 people watch your videos, 100 people, like that's crazy to think about, right? So it's important to have that sort of mentality in mind, especially for aspiring creators. Like understand, if anyone watches your videos, they chose to spend their time, which is the most valuable resource that anyone has in life, to consume your content, and that should be very motivating to you. And then if you want more people to choose to spend their time on something you create, there's ways to make it more worthwhile to them, and to understand how to supply that value. Well, this was a great talk. I feel like we're coming up on a good close here. Is there anything you want to relay to the Brian F. Trash Talk listeners at home? Anything you want to say?
Just quickly, if you want to get into the space, find a niche, write a script, edit, and try to focus on evergreen content. I feel like that's a big thing we didn't kind of talk about. Don't focus on like what will get a click right now and then no one will talk about it a month from now. Focus on videos that will get clicked on for years, which is why you write a script and why you produce, because just make something that you would click on and something that can be timeless as much as possible.
Right. Amazing
And
advice.
And I want more people to make cool fighting game stuff. We can't let Smash be killing us, man. It hurts me, man.
Okay.
I hate it, man.
That's a good way to position it.
Nothing against Smash, but they're killing us, and I like traditional fighting games. I want us to be dominating this space,
Right.
please.
Well, let's do it.
So-
Yeah, I like that more as a competition rather than is Smash a real fighting game or not. Who cares? Let's make it a competition who can make better content. And Smash has for years been killing it. I definitely would advise anyone who's interested in the space to watch more Smash content creators, even if you don't care about the games. Just see what people are putting out there, and you can probably just start stealing their ideas and do it for Street Fighter or whatever. Like, be shameless. Let's go. Let's steal all their YouTube videos. There we go. Great way to end it. All right, GuileWinQuote, thanks again for hopping on. Appreciate you.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. Peace.